Simon Crean, friend, never a foe. He was, as the Minister, the member for Gorton, has just described, a role model. And I want to put on record how he was a role model to me. I came to this place in 2010. A backbencher, not like Simon, frontbencher from day one, but I was a mere humble, perhaps not so humble, backbencher from the Riverina, a different state than Simon. I was from New South Wales, he's very much a Victorian. I don't know why, to this day, that he gave me the time that he did, but I'm thankful for it. I can recall that I kept bumping into him and one of his frontbench colleagues in the hallway. And I'd always say hello and be very respectful to this other Labor leading light and barely get a grunt out of this person who later, when I became Deputy Prime Minister, we talked then and it was good. But Simon, from the get-go, whenever I'd see him in the hallway, I'd say, "Hello, Minister," very respectfully, and he'd always give me time and always say hello. And one day, one particular morning, this other person walked past, and this other person was in a very prominent role, and I said good morning, and the person barely bothered to look at me. And Simon was following just behind. I said, good morning, Minister. How are you, Simon?" And he stopped. And you could tell he was in a hurry. I think it was party room time. But he stopped and he said, "You know, I don't agree with much or any of what you say, but you say it with such passion." He said, "Why don't you come up to my office this afternoon after question time at 4 o'clock and let's have a chat. Let's have a cup of tea." And his staff member said, "But Minister, Mr Crean, you have such and such at 4 o'clock." And he said, "I have it now. I've got the member for Riverina." And she was quite insistent. No, but this has been in the day." He said, "I've given the member for Riverina the assurance that we need to talk. You and I need to talk," he said. And so at 4 o'clock I went to the Minister's office. I was a bit nervous, I have to say. He was a leading light in the Labor Party, and I couldn't then, and I still don't know why, he wanted to give me such time. But he gave me such advice, such wisdom, and he was so warm and caring. And he gave me the sort of assurances that you need to be bipartisan, you need to look beyond your own party, you need to look beyond your own constituency, and you need to be, as you are, always yourself. And from that time forward, Simon always put his arm around me in a figurative sense and was most interested in my progress through the Parliament. He didn't need to, but he did, and it's extraordinary, it's strange. Why would a Labor member do that to somebody from the other side, somebody from the opposition, somebody who was really, quite frankly, a no-one, when he wasn't a no-one? He was somebody important. He was somebody who the nation looked upon for direction and leadership and guidance, and yet here he was, going out of his way to coach, to tutor, to mentor a backbencher from the National Party. Go figure. But that's Simon Crean. And we formed a good and close friendship that day. And in 2012, I was driving to Parliament one afternoon, and I get, as the Parliament was sitting the next day, and I get a frantic call from my former deputy editor at the Daily Advertiser newspaper at Wagga Wagga, who quite frantically said, "I have to put an editorial together and I don't have time, can you do one for me?" And I said, Peter Barney, Peter, if you haven't already forgotten, I'm now a Member of Parliament. It's been some years, it's been 8 years since I've done that, and besides, why would you ask me to do that? He said, "Because I haven't got time to do it." He said, and he said, "I've got no staff." He said, "I've got people away." He said, "Can you please just do it? I don't even care if you write yourself up, just do it." So I thought to myself, here's a good opportunity. I can write an opinion piece in my local newspaper and promote myself. And so I wrote this piece, and then Peter put his own slant on it, and it was under the heading in the edition of 14 June 2012, "Regionalism is good for all Australia." and the editorial reads, "The Riverina and in particular Griffith and Wagga are helping to boost the significance of regionalism. In recent weeks, Griffith City Council has instigated the demand for another dam in the Murray-Darling Basin, while in Wagga member for Riverina, Michael McCormack organised a highly progressive forum on high-speed rail last week and put on notice his intention to run a forum on dams construction. I couldn't have written better myself. The fact that both these issues have gained impetus from major centres like Griffith and Wagga underline the importance of regionalism in the nation's development. Despite preoccupation with the mining industry, manufacturing, transport and agricultural development in regional and rural Australia remain vital and central to the country's growth. It is what Federal Minister for Regional Development Simon Crean calls joining the dots. Partnerships between government of all three levels and the private sector, more usage of rail, the need to upgrade it and eventually get as much off-road as seen by Crean as essential to regional development. Investing in infrastructure is not something governments can be left to do on their own anymore, Crean told those at the Intermodal Freight Logistics Hub announced in Wagga. Crean obviously practiced what he preaches. His department has worked with Wagga Council on the commercial precinct at the airport, the NBN rollout both for the fibre option within the city and the fixed wireless component elsewhere, the International Freight Hub, Council's energy-saving lighting program and investment in the base hospital. And so the next day, with this editorial printed and in hand, I gave it to Mr Crean. I said, "Look what the local paper has printed." He looked at it, glanced at it, read it, and he said, "Oh, that's pretty good." He said, "Sounds like something you had a hand in." And we joked, and that was all well and good. A week later, he gets a question in question time from Janelle Saffin, the former member for Page. "My question is to the Minister for Regional Australia, Regional Development and Local Government and Minister for the Arts." Simon, amongst other things, had so many portfolios, I would have hated to have seen his business card. It probably would have been an A3 sheet. "Will the Minister update the House on the most recent round of grants under the Regional Development Australia Fund, and how is this being received in regional Australia? Further, why is this fund important to the future of regional communities?" Well, you can imagine the Nationals in the room. They're all going for him, and Simon got the answer, and of course he started off very well. I thanked the member for Page for a question, and and talked about how he was in Ballina not that long ago, and talked about farmers and all sorts of things in the question. Of course, he's getting what for. He mentioned Barnaby Joyce in the question, and he was just copying it from the opposition, particularly the regional members. And then he came out with this one.
The persistence, though, is also important because these initiatives, 62% of them, Deputy Speaker, were projects that failed the first round. Now, the member for Riverina knows the initiative in Wagga Wagga, and he was very proud to come and give me the editorial from the Daily Advertiser, which was ringing our praises in terms of what we did.
And of course, I get Warren Truss, the leader of the Nationals, just look down the aisle and look at me. And on his way out, Simon gave me a bit of a wink and put the piece of paper back in his pocket. And Warren came up to me and he said, "What was that all about?" But I mean, it was hard for me as a backbencher to tell the leader of the National Party, well, Simon and I had this special relationship, you see, and I thought I'd give him a good plug, and indeed I did, and I'm glad that I did because he deserved it. He was, as the member for Gorton just indicated, a very good regional development minister. And indeed, when Simon unsuccessfully challenged, and it was supposed to be with Kevin Rudd, the leadership of Julia Gillard in 2013. I can well remember walking past the press conference that Simon did in the Mural Hall and thought, what's this all about? And I'd got some bit of an inclination that something was afoot. And of course, as we now know, he hadn't read the text from Mr Rudd had sent him to say that this wasn't going to happen today. And of course, it all went asunder and Simon lost his ministry. And I can well recall that night, I stupidly, cheekily, call it what you like, I went and bought a bottle of wine from the Parliamentary gift shop, which had the backbencher on it, and signed it saying, "Thank you for your efforts and your work for regional Australia," and went and gave it to him. And he was sitting in his office. Everybody had gone, and him and I were there in his office. He was packing up the last remnants of his ministry paperwork, etc. And here was this bloke from Riverina giving him a bottle of wine with backbencher on it. I think it was probably one of those too soon moments, but he appreciated it, and I can well remember how harsh politics can be. I found it out later when you lose a ministry, and You know, you're out on your own, you're there, left all on your own, and you probably find out who your true friends are at that point in time. And he was a true friend, and he was a true friend of mine. And when I learnt of his death, I was so upset. I was, and so was my wife, Catherine, because we knew just how much he meant, not only to his wife, Carol, and his family, but indeed to our nation and to the Labor family. And I will say the Labor family. And I will remember when our daughter, Georgina, moved to Melbourne. I was talking to Simon and he said, there's always a door. If I can open any door for Georgina, I'm happy to do so. If she ever needs someone to go shopping with, my wife's there. If ever she needs even a bed to stay, my home is hers. That is unusual. And I know we have this camaraderie across the chamber and we talk about it, but he took it to the next level. And he was a wonderful human being, a beautiful man, and I will say that. I did, in a sense, love him dearly because he taught me how to be a politician. It's the rare qualities that he had that are needed more than ever in this place. You know, for somebody who was in as high a position as he was, as I say, to reach across and to befriend someone such as me and to show someone such as me the ropes and how it should be done, I am forever in debt to him, and may he rest in peace because he was an amazing, remarkable person, way beyond what this place usually produces. And my sympathies, my condolences, my heartfelt emotions go out to his family, to his friends, Vale, Simon Crean I. Authorised by Michael McCormack, the National Party, Wagga Wagga.